Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Marcy Thomas, back with you for another episode of the BGC Book Club. So come on in the room, and get ready for what's going to be a really exciting conversation with a dynamic writer and editor that I am really thrilled to have an opportunity to talk about her latest book, baby, which is barely a day old at this point. So as you come in the room, if you don't mind letting us know if it's your first time here, if you come here all the time, where you're joining us from, and also just to tell you up top, if you have questions or just want to share any comments, please do so, because we want this to be a conversation amongst friends. So again, I'm Marcy Thomas, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Spent some time in Michigan, where our special guest is from. And so I just really love being in this space to have conversations about really exciting books. And I didn't tell our guest this before we came on, but it means a lot to me today, because even though I did not go to an HBCU, my mentee moved into Spelman today. So I'm going to live vicariously through her and learn about her Spelman experience. So our special guest is Ebony LaDelle, who is the author of Love Radio, which was People Magazine's Best Book of the Summer, an Audie Award finalist, a Michigan Notable Book, and Apple Books Best Book, and was featured on the Today Show. Before becoming an author, she was a brand marketing director in book publishing and worked at Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, and HarperCollins. She holds a bachelor's degree in journalism from Howard University, HU, and a master's degree in publishing from Pace University. Her book that she published earlier this year was This Could Be Forever. And because this is such a busy and brilliant sister, her second book, which she edited, You've Got a Place Here, which is an anthology of Black love stories set at HBCUs, was just released on yesterday. So without any further delay, let's welcome Ebony LaDelle to the BGC Book Club for the first and not the last time. Hey, Ebony.
Hi, absolutely not the last. And thank you for having me for my first time.
Yes, I am super excited about that. You know, I got a chance to meet you a couple of months ago at the Black Romance Book Festival, and I was like, I'll see you in a couple months.
That festival was so good. I'm still on a high from that festival.
Yes, on a high from that festival. And those of you who like Black romance, I think in a couple of days they're going to be start selling tickets for next year. So get ready for that.
And I'll be there next year too. I'm really excited to be back, because I know afterwards authors were hounding to get there. So I'm excited I get to be back for a second year.
Yes. Good. Congratulations on that. And congratulations on your less than 36-hour book, baby.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel for this particular book?
It feels really nice to have this particular book out. I write YA books primarily, and I think it'll be, I'll probably dabble in both. But this is actually technically my first adult book. And luckily it's a story within an anthology. But it still is tailored first and foremost to that teen, young adult age. And so it's really nice to be able to write a story or have a collection of stories that really speak to a place that people can and should feel safe in, particularly Black teens, mostly Black teens. That's what I write for. And so having this story out and being able to have readers be able to read about these love stories, but also read about these schools to determine what feels safe for them as they're, thinking about life post-grad is really special to me.
Mm-hmm. And it was special to me to read because, as I said, I did not go to an HBCU. Mm-hmm. Actually, my first year was at Michigan State,
okay.
But I didn't go to an HBCU, but I always, in my heart, kind of wanted to, which is why I send my mentee at Spelman. I'm so excited because I'm like, I'm going to be coming over there, hanging with her, getting on her nerves, I'm sure. But, I just think it's quite an outstanding experience for those who have the opportunity to do so. And so what is it? And we know you went to HU, the main HU, right?
I didn't say it. You said it. I didn't say it. You said it.
I don't have anything against Hampton, but I'm just saying. But What was it that made you really want to tell this particular story or work with others? And we're going to get into a little bit of that momentarily. But
Yeah.
what was it that led you to even want to put a collection like this together?
Yeah, so I think the initial thing that led me was actually part of my dedication, and I dedicated this anthology to teachers and particularly to my teacher, Miss Spicer, who I need to find her. I have not talked to her in decades, but I lived in Michigan. I moved because my dad moved to Vegas. I moved to Vegas, and I was really struggling. Like I was really struggling going from like a city and a culture that was very rich with Black history and just alive with Blackness to a place that did not fit in for me. I couldn't find a full place there. And so in that space. So it was like I'm trying to do activities, I'm running track. I have my friends outside of school, but like in the setting, I was just like, and I didn't realize that it was so obvious that I was not like happy, or I don't know what I don't know what Miss Spicer saw, but I was a teacher assistant. And I remember she was like, Ebony, you need to go to HBCU. And I was like, Miss Spicer, I'm going to Michigan State of UNM. Like, I'm going back home. I'm going back to I know the people, I know the spaces, I know the culture. I feel like I'll feel comfortable again in that space. And she was like, no, you need to go to an HBCU. And when I tell you, she just would not let it go. She just wouldn't get off my neck about it. It was wild. And to the point where she put me in touch with someone who her and her husband went to Howard. They like opened their home up. I was able to come and stay and went on campus and was like, oh, yeah, she's right. I need to come here. And so that was, if she never told me that, I don't think I would have went. And so I just think that exposure, like just seeing it for myself, experiencing it for myself, visualizing it for myself, really changed me immediately, where I was like, oh no, I'm coming here. And then I went back and I was like, okay, let me get everything together, you know? So it was just like hit the ground running. And so what I wanted, or I think this anthology is for not just people who are interested in going to HBCUs, but like you said, for people like yourself who want to have the experience of what an HBCU is like, or people who are currently attending HBCUs or alumni. But I think when I started to come up with this concept, I was thinking of like, what would have happened if not, I had Miss Spicer, right? But like, what would happen if other teens had this story when they were like considering going to an HBCU, to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to read this romance book, but also I'm going to learn about these schools, and then actually see like what it could be, you know, in good, bad, and indifferent. And I think the stories really speak to that, but seeing what it could potentially be and deciding like, you know what, I want to take my chances on going to an HBCU.
And that's really huge. And the things you were just saying, in a way, I was kind of that person for my mentee, because she is a pianist, and she's trying to figure out what school she wants to go to for piano education and things like that. And Spelman was on the list, and you know, she had another one that was kind of like maybe a little bit above Spelman. I was like, you need to go to Spelman. And I mean, not just because it keeps her here close to me, not just for selfish reasons, but also, and I mean, this is something that is touched on in the book, and you know, at least one of the stories, she, because of what she does, I mean, she's brilliant, right? But she's in this world of classical piano, so there's not a lot of people that look like her. And I'm like, you need a different kind of experience. And I mean, and you know, ultimately you're going to choose, you know, however, you know, the community you choose as you get older, but you need this experience of being around other Black people.
And I think it's like, I would say for me, and I think not even just for me, for a lot of people, and I touch upon this in the introduction too. And it's something that I kind of advise teens if they're asking me about like why an HBCU, like what was sort of your track. I personally liked going to an HBCU, and then, you know, for undergrad, because that is just such a crucial moment in your life where you're learning yourself, and to be able to kind of experiment with who I am in a setting that is fully Black. So you can just experience, you know what I mean? You can experience and experiment, like hopefully being your truest self, because you should feel safe enough to, I think is super critical, because you're not just like in school, like you're also learning super like crazy life skills at the same time. There's so much you're learning at once, right? And so it gave me the confidence and the boldness so that when I graduated and then I went to grad school and I went to a PWI, I very much knew what I was dealing with. I very much knew who I was. If I felt like weird about certain situations, it's not like questioning that while you're questioning everything else.
Right. That's true.
And it also helped me in corporate America as well. So I even tell students, like, if you're, if you want to go to grad school, I'm not saying don't go to a HBCU for grad school. Go to HBCU for grad school. You know what I mean? Jasmine Bell is literally, she graduated and is in grad school at HBCU. But like, I would say at least go to undergrad. You know what I mean? And experience, because I definitely have had the opposite with friends who went to grad school at HBCU and they're like, ugh, I really wish I had the undergrad experience.
Yeah, because it's just a different experience.
It's very different.
By the time you get to grad school, most people, I mean, some people are able to go straight there and they haven't gotten into the workforce yet. But for a lot of us, you're already in the workforce, maybe starting families and things like that. So you're not able to be fully immersed.
Exactly. In the community part of it. Yeah. Part of it. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you have the idea, but then you had to pitch the idea.
Yeah. So I had the idea of I wanted to do something related to HBCUs and romance. And I think it was, at first I was like, do I want to do Howard? And that felt too specific. I wanted to expand, I guess, that universe because, and I was talking about this recently. I was also not just thinking about me. Again, I wasn't just thinking about me. I'm thinking about people, even that I know, like in my family, like I have a huge family on my mother's side. And I have cousins who, my mom's from my mom's side of the family. A lot of them are in the South. And so I'm explaining my Howard experience. And I have a cousin or cousins who are like, that's too city. You know what I mean? Like that might be a little too much for me. But it's like, yeah, but if you went to Alabama or JSU or, you know what I mean? Like Xavier, like if you went to one of those schools, that might be more your like comfort level, right? Just because of the culture of what you're used to too. And so that kept sticking with me where it's like, I don't want it to be a thing where what I wanted was someone to read this collection and be like, oh, I can see myself going to that school. You know what I mean? Like all we need is one, right? And so that is where I realized, okay, I want to have like a short story could be a thing. And I also had a friend who was telling me, you should do an anthology, Ebony, you should do a romance anthology. You would be so great at it. And I'm like, I don't know. But then I kept thinking, she was just telling me like, you should think about, I should say Cerecia Fennell, Wild Tongues Can't Be Tamed. That's the author. And also a really good friend of mine and like publishing colleague. We go back. And she kept saying, you should do an anthology. And so I was like, I wanted to be the right thing though. And I think at some point it just clicked where I'm like, I can merge these two things together. So from there, I told my agent and she was like, we got to do this ASAP. Like, this is a great idea. She was just like, we got to go for it. And so that was like me in a very like short amount of time. I knew that there were like certain authors and certain writers that I wanted to tap into because I knew that they went to HBCUs, but then also I think just in the time frame, and also I had like some really difficult personal things happening. I'm also just like, okay, well, let's like not limit this because there are authors that I know that didn't necessarily go to an HBCU, but they have the experience of living in that state and how, these HBCUs can really like shift like the, experience of a city, or the city can, I think they shift, it's in tandem, right? Like, you being in Atlanta, like that environment is like, everybody talks about someone, everybody talks about Morehouse, everybody talks about Clark Atlanta. Like it's like one and the same. So I'm like, if I can't get that, then I'll make sure that they understand either the city or like Kai Davis is a Delta. And I really wanted a sorority story, but I'm like, we're not doing no fake sorority stories. I'm not having someone write it who is not in a sorority or a frat, And so, yeah, that is when I really started to piece it together, like the authors. And in addition to doing that, I was trying to piece together the region. So I was kind of doing those things at the same time because, again, I wanted to make sure I'm showcasing HBCUs from different places so that people can feel like, oh, this would potentially be a place I wanted to go. So yeah, it was sort of like puzzle piecing those things together and connecting the dots, and then putting together this wish list of people. And then me and my agent go reaching out to them and pitching them.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like a lot of people, I was actually shocked. Like I had to kind of change some things because a lot of people who are my top asset, yes, immediately. So I'm like, oh, okay, then I need to shift this. I was going to ask this person to do this school, but instead I need to look at this region because we have too many people here, you know? And so
Right.
it felt like a whole puzzle.
It
but
is. But you did
yeah,
such a good job with that.
thank you. But it came together really, really well. And I'm happy that I was like that meticulous about all those things because, and there's still things like I know people were like, we didn't get a Spelman story. And I'm just like, I know, I'm sorry. I tried to do what I could.
But you know what? It's 12. There are 12 stories this book in this book. We're going to talk about, some of, the stories and schools that are mentioned and even writing styles, because there's different writing styles. But I mean, this could be one of, it doesn't have to
I know
be
that's what I know. That's what people keep saying.
Well, before we start talking about some of the actual stories, Ebony, of course, you are a writer, and of course, you have this experience of having worked in the publishing industry in the past. From the perspective of pitching this to be the editor of this, do you think that that previous experience really helped you to kind of know how to navigate that process?
Yeah, I mean, I was in marketing for a year, so I think it helped me. I actually got to see like editors come in and pitch at acquisitions and how they pitch stories, and seeing even in terms of anthologies. Like I worked on a few anthologies as a marketer. Like I worked on. I was the marketer for Black Enough by E.B. Boy, which if you haven't read it, please read that anthology. It's incredible. So I had that experience, and also I edited a book, and editing that book came from a frustration of not seeing enough like authors of color being featured. And so that was what that process was like. And so that was the first time I did it, and I was freaked out. And then I got great advice, and then it was really from an editor at my publisher who was like, Ebony, like you are very vocal about, books that we're acquiring. You have a lot of thoughts on even some of the edits in terms of if it could be, problematic, or if it could be this, or if it could be that. And she was like, you take that same energy and you just put it in an editorial letter, and you just like work with the author to, get it to where you guys both want it to be. And that experience was like really super valuable. And I'm happy I got that advice because that book got a New York Times book review, and so it was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, Ebony, this is what happens when, you step out of like, just step out, just do the thing that you want to do. So it really made me feel comfortable doing this. And also knowing that I was going to have an in-house editor who has experience sort of, guiding if I felt like there was something that I didn't know how to edit or couldn't edit, or I couldn't find what needed to be fixed. Fixed is relative, but you know what I mean? Right. So yeah, it was, I do think it was very helpful and also comforting having that experience to be able to step out and do something like this.
And you, as I said, you've done such a good job. So
Thank
for
you.
those who have not had a chance, because of course the book just came out, I know some people get early copies, like, I have an early reader, I just do. Well, first of all, it's also available on an audio. So for everyone who likes to listen to audio.
And I will say for the, so for the audio, so the audio book is amazing because we have multiple audiobook narrators doing this. Like it's pretty stacked. And I was so happy when the Random House crew reached out and was like, yeah, we want to make basically a full production of this, and we want each of the stories to feel unique as they are, and so we want different audiobook narrators. And so we are making sure to pull people who have like who are from the South, who have Southern accents, and who, like are really an embodiment of what the stories are. And so it's really great. And even for the stories that have dual point of views, there's like the female and male audiobook narrator. So it is a very like immersive experience. And if people are not, maybe they're just like exhausted and they don't have time to like sit down and read, or you're in your car, I would highly recommend you listen to the audiobook. And it's really nice too because it's short stories, so you can like listen to this like one story and sit with it and then come back to it, which is what I wanted.
Yes, and it's very good because I did some reading and I did some listening.
Okay,
So
I love that.
I did a combination. So some of the people who are in here, we have Kai Harris, Kennedy Ryan, Aaron Foley, Elizabeth Acevedo, Farrell Roshan, Carla Bruce, Nicola Yoon, Jasmine Bell, Christine Platt, Kiese Lehman, and Donnie Walton. So a couple of those ladies have been here before.
They absolutely have.
A couple I'm trying to get. So you know, a good word for me. I'm just kidding.
I will.
but yes, I love that it is a variety of authors. All of them all of them write oftentimes across genres, and sometimes they don't. When I say genres, I mean maybe young adult versus adult. So of course, in pulling it together, you had like your top people that with things like that. You've already kind of talked about that, but I just really love that you were able to get some pretty heavy hitters to be a part of this anthology.
I mean, I'm super excited. First and foremost, like I wanted to make sure I got the romance writers. I think romance is a genre that is often not taken as seriously, but it's hard writing a really good like love story if the swoon ain't there, and particularly, and then also it's hard writing short stories, and so I just wanted to make sure that like I was thinking of people who I knew like have written short stories or have written romance, whether they were romance writers or they write romance well in their stories. Like it was a fangirl moment of just like pulling people who I felt like could pull it off in the way that I knew they would pull it off because of the way that they write in general, and just sort of tailoring my pitch to them and their writing style and their work, which was definitely a nerd out moment for me.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite story is because that's not fair. It's almost like asking who's your favorite child, or
I can't even get when people ask me what my favorite book is. I'm like, I can't do this anymore, and I'm just not gonna try.
Right. Yeah, and I'll admit that, like, I ask people like, "What's your favorite book?" They're like, "Of all the books." Sometimes you may have a top 5. That one that you turn to, or whatever the case may be. So there's that. So I will let you decide which story you want to talk about first.
Oh, are we going through all of them? Or are we just gonna
we're gonna hit the highlights because we don't have time to go through all of them.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, we have time, but not time to like.
Not time. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, we could, if we want to like run through it a little bit, like we could kind of.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one, Whatever Gods May Be, by Kai Harris. That story is about Fisk University and 2 singers, one confident singer, one not so confident singer. I think that it's really cool that number one, she's talking about the experience of being a transfer student, going to a new school or going to HBCU. And number 2, like when we again let fear stop us from doing something that we know we want to do. We know we have a gift. We know we should use it, but we're just afraid to. And also having sort of that potential bay to like push you, and you know what I mean, like in love and knowing like, yeah, you got it. You should do the thing. So that is that story. Brave Disguise by Kennedy Ryan is actually I pitched it because she has an Audible original called Coming Home. And I remember I was going on to her Audible. No, I wasn't going to. I was putting together a list, and I listened to the Audible original, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is like a different world." So I pitched this, and I was like, "I don't know if you're interested in continuing to write in this world, but I would love if you would, consider it." And so that was a yes. That was great. And also this is the spiciest story in the book. It's the most controversial, and it's like peak romance genre, and that is exactly why I wanted her to do it, because that is she's always towing the line, pushing the line, which I think it creates great conversation starters. Who Teaches Black Boys How to Love is by Aaron Foley. So Aaron is a Detroit native and author. He wrote the book Boys Comes First. I'm pretty positive. I'm like questioning myself, but I'm pretty sure that's the name of the book. And it is a beautiful book about Detroit and about being gay and finding love, and especially in a predominantly Black city, especially and speaking about, you know, gayness and queerness when we are talking about Black cities, and also HBCUs. And so I really wanted to talk about and make sure the queer experience was highlighted. And I remember I did an interview with the Hilltop, and the lady who was interviewing me, she was just like, "Are we going to have queer rep?" And you know, and it just really shows just the fact that she's like asking and hesitant about it is like, I don't know if we're gonna get it, you know. And so it was something that I was really thinking about when I was putting together this anthology. And so it's about two Black boys falling in love. Michigan has an HBCU. It was Lewis College of Business. It was founded by a woman, and it was like a secretary college. And so it is talking about two boys in the 80s going there and trying to sneak and be in love when the world doesn't want them to. Unfortunately, very timely. A Flying Lesson by Elizabeth Acevedo. So I have worked with Elizabeth as a marketer as well on her work from the Poet-X. And I really wanted, I wanted the writers to play with formats as well.
Yes.
And Elizabeth is a poet.
Yes.
And I wanted a poet in here to write something in verse. And so I, you know, kindly nudged her. But we were having a conversation, and she was talking about how she had heard of this Dominican pilot who was part of Tuskegee Airmen.
Yes.
And she was like, and I just thought it's so interesting. And I just wanted to, and I was like, oh my God, I want Tuskegee in the story. This is perfect.
Yes.
And so that was it.
Story.
Yeah. And so that was kind of how that came to be. And then she was like, she was like, I'm playing with verse. And I was like, great. And that's the story we got. And it's just a beautiful story. So that is that story. Second Line, First Dance, Farrah Rashan. She is a romance author. This story is, and she's also an Xavier alum. And I asked her to be in it because she is from Xavier, because she is a romance author, because she does romance so well. And I told her, I was like, you know, I want a Mardi Gras experience, but also I know that because, you know, you're from there, you're going to give us something that is not just like the, you know, cheesy, like Mardi Gras experience. You're going to talk about and touch upon something that is important. And I don't want to give it too much away, but she does that well. And she does it well in like the Enemies to Lovers arc, because there are disagreements about basically how they're planning this Mardi Gras experience, and exactly what I wanted. It was great. I Have Come Home by Carla Bruce. This is another queer rep story. This is a lesbian love story. And also it was something I wanted. And the interesting thing about how this story came to be was me and Carla is a really good friend of mine as well. And a great writer. And I wanted her to be in because I know the type of like tender love that she can write about. And I started to research like HBCUs that were at the forefront of like the queer community, and Howard popped up. And so I was like, well, I'm writing a Howard story.
Right.
So I guess we gonna have, you know what I mean? And she already agreed to it. So we were like, well, we just gonna do this. And so being able to write a story that is honoring also some of the founders of the Lambda organization that was founded there was really special, and sort of having a love story develop from that experience. Romantic Studies by Nicola Yoon. I found out that there was a HBCU, the University of Virgin Islands, which I found very
I was surprised
interesting.
about that one.
I know, very interesting, compelling. And I'm like, dang, I didn't know about that back then. I might have went.
That part.
But I wanted to just feature it and showcase it. Nicola's Caribbean, and I felt like she would be able to like, she's Jamaican. I felt like she'd be able to lend that experience to the story. And also, you know, she really she really went there with the format. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't want to give it away,
Love
but
the
it's actually, I
format.
know it's a lot of people, it's like their faves. And I remember when me and my editor got it, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, that was definitely one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how to edit this. You know what I mean? Because I was used to just a normal format. But I was able to like learn from Chelsea with how she did it. And it was just a really like great experience. Number one, in terms of like playing with format, as a writer, as an editor, learning how to edit the format, you know what I mean? And making it in a way that it was definitely a favorite amongst a lot of readers already.
Mm-hmm.
And also that I will say it's more of like a sad romance. And I love that it's like talks about grief, but I love that she talked about that because it's honest. And I think when we talk about like Black love in particular, there are a lot of times we are, experiencing love while sort of like also balancing some difficult things. And so it's nice to have that in the story, because it's definitely something that I always want to talk about. Sunset Sips by Jasmine Bell. So Jasmine is our contest winner. We did a call out.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a call out for HBCU students, undergrad and graduate students, to submit their story. And I read Jasmine's story, and I just knew, like, it was just like I read others and they were great, but like Jasmine's story was a story that was like, this has to be in the anthology. We have to have a cafe love story. This is this is a college book. We can't not have a cafe love story.
Right.
And so it's very cute. It's got a little drama. It's like the best normal college type drama that you're gonna have.
Right.
And I loved it. One Little Lie by Christine Platt. Similar situation to Elizabeth, is we were having a conversation about the anthology, and I was talking about like certain things that I wanted featured. And one of the things that I did, I wanted to, showcase a little bit more of the West. And, I wanted a cowboy story. And when I was talking about the West, she was like, yeah, there's like a cowboy story that I was like, say less. That kind of was like where that was solidified, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get this story. I'm really excited about it. And so it is, it's the story's called One Little Lie. I don't want to give away the little lie, but it is essentially a student coming in and like trying to have a facade of a way that like he carries himself in his being, versus like not showing his full self and confronting that. The Musty by Kiese Lehman. Kiese is a JSU alum. I asked him to write a story about JSU. My family is from Mississippi, and so when I would spend my summers out there, like it was just very, ever present in the culture and the vibe. And Kiese gave me a story. And I'm just gonna keep it at that, because I think when people read it, they're gonna be like, oh. But what I will say about it, because I feel like if I start, it's gonna give too much away. This is such a HBCU experience, in that Kiese wrote a story that students are going to be talking about and debating and discussing. And it is literally like, it actually, I feel like, completes the experience of this anthology.
And it's the shortest story in the book.
Yeah.
He does a lot.
You don't feel short. You're going to be like,
does a lot with a little.
Yeah, he does a lot. I mean, but that's why he is who he is, right? The Highest of the Seven Hills by Donnie Walton, I'm skipping my story, is how we end off the anthology. And Donnie is a FAMU alum, and same thing. I've asked her to write a FAMU story. I don't want to give too much away because we're also going on tour, but she accepted. There were some things that she was thinking about too, and it's just like a great story. Just like second chance romance, multi-generational, amazing. And then my story, The Black Mecca, is a Howard story. And that story is like elements of things that I wanted to discuss. I basically, a lot of what I also wanted to do, and I did with some of the stories, is like finding out bits of information about the schools and what I wanted to feature, and then highlight those things. And that was essentially how the Howard story came to be. And it came to be because when I went to grad school, to get my MS in publishing. I remember thinking, I really wish Howard had something like this, or I really wish
Mm.
had something like this. And throughout the years, from the moment I was at Howard until like going to publishing, I kept hearing whispers. Well, Howard had a publishing program. And I'm like, what? And it was just like in passing, like people would say it,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, wait, I need more information. Like
Tell me more.
what is happening here? Why did I not know about this? And so honestly, if I'm being real, I fought that story. I fought that story with myself. Like, I don't know if I want to write this, but I'm like, but this is also really valuable information. Like,
Mhm.
if I feel this way about it, then imagine what readers can feel about it. And I felt like it was something that just kept coming up years and years in a way where I'm just like, I just wish there was more. And so I was like, you know what, Ebony, I guess you're gonna have to find it. And so it feels very similar, obviously, to like me in that way. And also I feel like it's a really just an important framework for like even in publishing what we're thinking about in terms of like how we want to, show up in this space, like the communities that are important for us to create so that like this community, you know what I mean? So that we're able to like talk about the industry or talk about the books or talk about whatever, and just showing that that has been happening at HBCUs for years. And whether it's an ebb and flow of like these, organizations and programs and things
Right.
that are out, and then, they take a beat pause and then they revitalize them. But it is important for us to have that history written down about these things. And so for me, I'm like, you're a publishing girly and nerd. Like you just put it in there, girl.
Yeah, who better to tell the story than you?
Thank you.
So you have given us a great overview of all the
Thanks.
stories. I appreciate
That was my first time doing that.
Yes, yes. But yeah, I mean, it's good to do that so people kind of get an idea of what to expect. So, I'm going to ask you some, just questions in
Specific
and
questions,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to start with you.
Okay.
We'll start
Absolutely.
with
Yeah.
you. In your story in particular, I do like the fact that you're talking about what happened with Howard having like this publishing program at one time, but in the book, as in this story as well as in other stories, they're not all necessarily current. So this story takes place in the 70s,
80s.
80s. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because some of it, because you're talking about disco, that makes me think.
It was like the early 80s.
Early 80s.
Yeah.
So yes. So of course, in order for you to tell that story, there was a certain level of going back. You had to do to get that information, and doing research as well to be able to present the story. So was it difficult for you to find the information to be able to, not only tell the love story, but also to include that history in there?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as difficult as you would think because I was sort of nerding out about it, and so like going to Howard, doing research at the library. One of my mentors who is in publishing, Malika Darrow, she was one of the first students to come out of that program. And so I was able to interview her. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things that, I mean, it's a short story, right? So there's only so much that you can fit. And I've also, lived in the area for years and years. And at the time that I wrote the story, I was there. And so it was really just trying to make sure I was as historically accurate as possible while still making it, fiction. I think I did a pretty good job. It might be a couple things people like, I don't know. But I even like in referencing like the clothing and all of that stuff, like just making sure that it was with the times. Some of the lingo, I didn't go too hard on it, but also, there are like, stuff included in there. The music part was easy for me. Because my parents, especially my dad,
I was reading I'm like, she wasn't born then.
But I love this. But listen, I love me some old school. Okay, so it was just that part was actually easy because I'm like, yeah, this song is going in there. You know what I mean? Like, and those are the parts where like I'm telling my dad, and he's just like, look at you. And I'm like, yeah, I learned from you. Like, it's not like I learned this music from y'all. And I loved it just as much as you guys did. So yeah, that part was actually really fun to like incorporate that. And also using that time to really highlight how in ways things are, eerily similar in ways that it shouldn't be, I think was important for me and why I wanted it to be in that time frame too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to be able to give us some insight, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
what was happening then as well as what's happening now. And before I
Yeah.
ask questions about the other stories, one of the things that I feel makes this book like very timely, because we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And whether it's doing away with our history or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is to try to
Mm-hmm.
diminish our stories, to diminish our places of education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to have a story like this at this time, and I think it makes, for some, it makes it easier because it's not preachy, because it is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
wrapped in story, it
Yeah.
is wrapped in romance and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, but there's still, don't think it's just fluffy romance, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
that. It really
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, and thinking about this anthology and the schools and the time, like, again, I do want something that is stamped, that we can say, like, you know, we don't know what is to become of anything. But even the title, which is from a line from a Nikki Giovanni poem, it is literally saying, like, we always have a place. You know what I mean? There's always a place that you can go, like, as Black people. And so that is really what I want this to feel like. Like, we should be thinking about how we all can feel like we have a place to congregate that feels safe to us, that feels secure to us. That could be like an HBCU, but also inspiring us all to, like, continue to think about how do we create those spaces for ourselves, a space that allows us to be ourselves, a space that is educational, and whether it's time or resources or how we offer things to each other, a space where we can have joy and there can be fun and laughter and partying. And also, when we got to be serious and we got to fight and we got to stand up for the cause, a space where we can do that too. So that is, to me, I think, like a summary of like what HBCUs do so well. It's like the best elements of community. And I think that age group is so amazing because it is before, people have gone off into the workforce. And so
right.
you're able to still have that like fire. You're able to still have that fight. You're able to still have that hope of like, I can be anything. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's why I wanted it all to be in the collection in this way.
Right, because I think a lot of times people don't think something is possible unless they see that it's possible. And
Absolutely.
knowing of these great educators, because of course we're talking about the students, but we also see the educators in here as well in many of the stories, the people that are teaching them or the people that
Yeah.
are supporting them. And you're like, oh wow, this person was doing this or this person was doing that, or those sorts of things. It's important to see that, so
Yeah.
you know what's out there for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, in the story, and I might get the one wrong, so you'll correct me. The story that includes Fisk, that is Kai's story, correct?
Yeah.
I love the fact that in that particular story, it also does include some things talking about the Fisk Jubilee Singers. Which a lot of people have heard of, and then other people might not. So it's something new, and that's some of that history.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was, again, a thing that, like, gospel choirs are huge across HBCUs, just singing, you know what I mean? Singing, band, like music. And so I really wanted to have that in the story. And I pitched a few things to Kai. And, the thing that I primarily wanted her to talk about was being a part of the Divine Nine. Yes. And then also, like, for all of the contributors, I was like, here are some themes that I would love to discuss from HBCUs. And we got on the phone call to brainstorm, and she was like, yeah, I like the idea of a choir. And I was like, cool. Fisk Jubilee Singers, so I like, and there were a few schools that I mentioned, but I really wanted Fisk too because Nikki Giovanni went to Fisk. I really wanted her in the anthology. I was putting this together before she passed on. And I was shooting my shot, as and I think also at the time, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Nikki Giovanni could say no to Ebony LaDelle, but like, even in that moment, like, we couldn't get in touch, and I don't know if that was because she was sick too, but just being able to still have the story of the school, especially when this title is honoring a piece of her work, was really special. And the Jubilee Singers are just so instrumental to like HBCUs in general. And so it was just really great. And then when I read the story, I was like, hi, girl.
Yeah, she did a really good job.
You did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Yes.
And so but you know, I knew she would. And so and she took the time and she did the research and she interviewed people. The reads that she got back from some of the Fisk people were like, yeah, this is it. You did the thing. We're going to be shouting this from the rooftop. So I'm happy she was able to do that. And also, again, yeah, like that's the goal, is to just have little nuggets of history from the schools as best as we can to highlight it.
And you talked about the Divine Nine aspect as well. And that's good to see as well, because in that particular story, this, you know, the character is trying to, you know, navigate, okay, I know if I'm in a sorority, there's a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
But then I know if I'm going to be in the singers group, there's a lot involved with that.
Yeah.
So really thinking about how, you know, a lot of students may have to navigate different things depending upon, you know, what they choose to be involved in, and how do you navigate that. So I mean, stuff like that, that's
absolutely
real.
It is. It's so real. It's like, I think sometimes you're expected, or you think that you're supposed to do one thing. Even in my story, it's something I talk about, how you can shift, you know, like she is very clear about what she wants to do and all over the place. And I think that's really important, because it's showing that you can play around with things. Like, that's what college is for. It's for you to say, I want to, you know, be a part of a sorority, and I want to be in a choir, and I want to be a journalism major, and I want to switch to something, you know, like that is the perfect time to experiment and do all those things. So, yeah, it's that balancing act that I think is really important. You're constantly doing that. And then the other thing you got to balance is parties. And so for me, parties. I had a lot going on. Howard was a party school. I was not out there like that. And you know, people would be like, Ebony, what? No, I wasn't. I was still a shy girl that had a lot to do. And I had my friends, and I wanted to go and chill. You know what I mean? But also, I knew people who were partying every weekend. I'm like, you burn it out, you know? So it is, you have to constantly like learn how to balance all the things that you're trying to juggle.
Yeah, I'm going to share this with my little Spelman sister Minty, because in her case, you know, I know she's going to be doing some things with the Spelman Glee Cup, for example, and still managing school, and you know, a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
and, you know, this is really when young people start to get a taste of what adult life can look like when you do have, you know, competing responsibilities. So
absolutely.
And how do you navigate and
you prioritize
and
also it could shift in the moment, and you don't even know the life stuff. Like, if you can't pay your, you know, I'll never forget when I was crying on the steps of a building because I'm like, my financial aid, you know what I mean? Like, so you got to navigate that. So there's always things that life will throw you. It really shows you, like, this is what life is like, even while you're contained on this campus.
And A Flying Lesson, we've talked about that one. That's Elizabeth's story. And that one is at Tuskegee. So, of course, most of us have heard about the Tuskegee Airmen. But I love the fact that in this particular story, not only is it the fact of, you know, being at Tuskegee and having a main character who's interested in flight and things like that, I love the fact that it allows us to look at Afro Latin person, Latino. So I think that's important as well, because a lot of times you might think HBCU, American School, Black American experience, but there are other people who are experiencing these schools as well.
Yeah, the diaspora was important, and I don't feel like I included enough of diaspora. And again, I had 12 stories, you know. This time. But yeah, it was important for me to showcase that, because that's another beauty, I think, of HBCUs, is like, you are really seeing how we are not a monolith. And so I think some of the best like cultural things that I got to experience was through different clubs, you know, like different clubs, different like organizations that they were showing their culture. And so they would have like events that you could participate in, and it was so respectful and fun, and you know, you were like really just appreciating what another culture brings.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I love that part of it. And so I wanted to be sure, again, like when I was talking about the story, that we included that. And also like the push and pull of like, if you are at a school, you know, it's one thing to live a couple, like, you know, maybe a couple hours away, but
Right.
what if you are like a plane ride away? What if you're multiple plane rides away? What if you're like a continent, you know, like what does that feel like when you're that far away from home, you know? And then on top of that, like a home within a home, like, you know, there's like this place, but then you still feel disconnected. And so having her be able to tie it in with like this sort of figure that he looks up to, as his like North Star as he's navigating school, is beautiful. And also, I don't want to give too much away, but there is also something that happens in the end that I think is so important. And I'm so happy. And I wanted someone to write about that element of the experience where if you are forced to do something that you may, or that you might have to take a beat, you might have to, you know what I mean, take a pause. Like there might be life things that come into play that require you to do something. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't change the HBCU experience. It doesn't change like how like you are still doing what you need to do, and sometimes you have to do a little pivot. And so yeah, there's so many reasons why I love that story, but yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to get that.
Right. And we already talked about it's a story in verse, so it's told a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I have come home. That's Carla's story. We talked about that as well. That is the one where we get introduced to Lambda in this story, and it starting at and it's based upon a person,
Chai Hughes, who helped found the Lambda club at Howard. And again, another very important story. Like they were marching with the Women's March in DC, and so when I read that, because I was actually trying to be like, "Ooh, let me do another school." You know what I mean? Let me do another school. I kept, because I wanted to be fair. I'm like, people are gonna be like, "Oh, Ebony went to Howard. She had to have 2 Howard stories. Here to Howard people go." You know, like I felt like I was gonna be that. I'm like, but this is such a beautiful piece of history that it would honestly be a shame not to include it. And so, yeah, I'm really happy we got to. And MCU's read it and loved it, and that was like a really deep honor for Carla. But yeah, I think I wanted to make sure to showcase how students, you know, they are creating these new organizations or experiences or things on these campuses. And it's just like any campus, you know, like if you're trying to do something that's new or difficult or uncomfortable, like there may be pushback. And so how do you fight the good fight? How do you continue to push forward and not give up? And so I think it's a beautiful telling of the fact that they continued, you know what I mean? Because that organization came to be. And then the full circle moment was like me being interviewed and having a student ask me, like, are we going to have queer rep? Because it's still needed, you know what I mean? And so, yeah.
And, you know, it just really speaks to, because we get to see some of the push and pull of things that are happening with people internally. And then you got to deal with your family.
Exactly.
And then you got to deal with broader society and how you're accepted. Because I think it's so easy to, what should I say, categorize people, or, you know, have, you know, have misperceptions about who people are. But when you see stories like this, as well as with like Aaron's, it humanizes that experience.
Yeah, and that's what that's what I really wanted. Like, it's like to imagine, like, you know, having to navigate, you're already trying to have your own identity or figure out your own identity when you're on a college campus. And also if that identity, if sexuality is in that identity, where you are realizing that you are something that is not considered, which it is, you know what I mean? But, you know, you're trying to, there's that push and pull of like, you know, should I come out? Like all of those things that are just really difficult to experience. I'm really happy that I was able to get that from them because I do think it's incredibly important. And I also want for students who are literally experiencing this in this moment to know it is okay. And you can be, you know what I mean? Whatever you feel, whoever you are, you should be able to be that person and be apologetic about it and be free in it, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Romantic studies. We talked about that one a little. Well, we talked about all of them. What stood out to me about that one is, of course, that it's University of Virgin Islands, which is wow. First and foremost, never knew. But even in that, there's some of the like cultural things because it's this place on the Virgin Islands, and one of the lead characters is from Jamaica, but understanding that Jamaica and the Virgin Islands
exactly yes,
Caribbean doesn't mean it's the same.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. I had a feeling Nicola was going to do that. And that's why when I said in the beginning, I was like, she's Caribbean. Then I was like, no, she's Jamaican. It's I wanted to be very specific because that line had me like cracking up. I'm like, yes, this is, but also I think it speaks to the beauty of going to an HBCU when, there is like a learning curve of like what you don't know. And then having someone in love, particularly with our people, when, we know that we're coming from a genuine place, we can lovingly correct each other. That was a really great example of like some of the conversations that will happen on like HBCU campuses where people are trying to like educate others on certain aspects of like the Black experience or the diasporic experience. And I was happy that she was able to include that in the story.
And just we touched on it, so I'm not gonna belabor it, but just the brilliance of the way it's written. So y'all have to get the book and see it. But it's written very different because when I first was like, what is this? And they're like, because it's called Romance Studies.
Romantic Studies, yes. Romantic studies. Yeah. So you have a good idea of what that could look like.
Yes. Because really it is a study.
It is, and it's a great title for it. It's a great title in general. It's just a great title to have in the book.
Yes, not romantic languages or whatever. Romance languages. That's why I guess that's where the romance was coming from for me. But thinking of romance language, but romantic studies. Yes. So that one, and then of course we've talked about what was the other one I wanted to mention real quick because we're almost at time, believe it or not. Of course, I will end with Kennedy Ryan, who a lot of people love, who a lot of people love, the books that she writes, but her story is even more different, as you said, the spiciest of the stories without being, spicy, but not, it's still kind of an innuendo. It's not graphic. Spicy, not graphic. Just But her story is good too because what's happening in that particular story and the characters is stuff that's real.
And I think that it's like a lot of people are comping the whole anthology to a different world, but I definitely, when I was thinking of her and this story, I was thinking of a different world because I'm like, this is like, our HBCU that she can kind of push the buttons a little bit because it's not a school that that we have to be like, oh, that might rub people the wrong way. And she talks about something that was very much alive when I was at Howard and very much alive when most people are going to these schools. And it can get dicey, but like, what does it look like when it actually is authentic? You know what I mean? How do you navigate that? And I think even the way in which she wrapped it up was like really great and really healthy, and really solid in a way that I hope that like, if this is a thing that someone is going through, which, I remember stories, that this could be a good like way to look at how to navigate it,
Right. Yeah. And also in other stories as well, is like it may be taking some stories may be really contained within that space, but then there are other stories like this one where you see kind of like what happened now and what happened later.
Absolutely.
So because sometimes it could be that person, and hey, how many of us has that happened to? That person you're crushing on or that you liked and maybe you had a relationship with, and for whatever reason it didn't come together then, but
it comes later on.
It come together later on because we know homecoming, right?
Yeah, for real. And I definitely know people, even the person that like convinced me to go to Howard. The couple, they didn't know each other when they're Howard alum that are married. They didn't know each other when they went to Howard like that. So it just like second chance, you know. Or I mean, maybe there's with me. Anywho, I'm not going to say that, but yeah, it is one of those things where it could very much be a thing that, like, going to a school, you might, because I remember when I went, a family friend of mine, he is an alpha. He told me, he was like, Ebony, the ratio is like, I think he said like 1 to 12, like for, yeah, at the time when I was there. And I was like, I ain't gonna date, you know, like it was just like, I mentally prepared myself, and I got into a relationship, and, you know, and it was very long term and it didn't work out, but it was one of those things where I went in like, nah, I'm just not even gonna, I'm not even gonna expect it. And so you just never know what could happen. Like the people who are like, I'm gonna go and find love, and then they're disappointed, versus the people who are like, I ain't finding nobody, and then they find the love of their life. Like the point is to like just be open to whatever the opportunity, whatever the school brings you. You know, there's so much you can get from it.
So much you can get from the experience, and you've got a place here or there. You've got a place there. Well, Ebony, I really do appreciate you coming on
and having me.
Yes, giving people a little appetizer. You know, a full meal.
I didn't want it because you got to buy the book to get the full meal. But I hope I gave enough that you're interested and intrigued and want to purchase a copy.
Yes, they got the description from the menu. They got that,
absolutely,
not everything. So I do know that, of course, with this being an anthology, you know, you're having like singular conversations like what we're having, but you're also doing some touring with some of the authors, right?
Yeah. So we are going on tour. Let me pull it up. We are going on tour at the beginning of September, and so I can read off quickly where we are gonna be, but it's gonna be, so September 7th we'll be in Atlanta at 44th and 3rd Bookseller. September 9th in New Orleans at Baldwin & Co. September 10th in Washington, D.C. with Mahogany Books. September 11th in Detroit with Source Booksellers. September 15th, Houston at Kindred Stories. And September 18th at Taylor & Co. And you can go to ebonyladelle.com/events to find out each place, and they're going to be contributors at each stop. Or you can see me, you can find it on social too. But yeah, it'll be really cool. Everybody can't obviously participate in every event,
right?
But it'll be me in conversation with like 1 to 3 of the contributors who are in the anthology. So it's almost everyone. So I'm very thankful for that too.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah. And I know I was joking with you, but do you think there would be a second edition or maybe an expanded edition where you could add more stories?
Listen, I'm not gonna. I mean, it's only been, you know, like you said, it's only been like
1
a
day
day and a half. Yeah, but it is interesting. It's already from some of the conversations I've had. It's like, would you consider? Would you? I'm like, so I won't say no. I'm not gonna say no. You never know. Yeah,
because how many HBC? I'm just messing with you. You don't have to have a story about every
single one. I know, but there are some where I'm just like, ugh, I do wish I could have got that one. I do wish I could have. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah, because I'm thinking Spell House would be good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it would be good just because I know a lot of stuff happens in Spelman and Morehouse. So,
yeah, in the beginning there was a Morehouse opportunity, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard what I said, but that's what I've been telling my mentee, like, stay away from them because I know.
It don't matter. It don't matter. I mean, that's basically one. I mean, they will kill me for that, but you know what I mean. The AUC is basically like one massive HBCU. You know what I mean? So it's not. They like swap classes.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just about that, but I'm like, yeah, keep your eyes on your paper. Do what you gotta do.
But still, do what you gotta do. Keep your eyes on. And I will say before we log up, that was also a big thing. I wanted in the stories, there's like a through line of like students pursuing their dreams, you know, and like, what are you there for? That is what you're there for.
Yes.
And if you stumble into these romances, that's great, but don't make it your everything. Like, don't make it your all in all. Don't put all your stake in this. Like, find, and also don't lose yourself in it. Don't try to become yourself for this person that you want. Like, find yourself. And in a setting like this, you could probably find someone who is very similar if you're being, you know, your truest self. So, and if it doesn't happen, then you're finding yourself, which that's love too, you know?
Right.
So
that is true. Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true. But yeah, that is the way the stories are told. Nobody's like giving up their dream for the other.
Yeah. You know, it's like they're merged, like they work so well because they're on the same path. They're like following these dreams together. Yeah.
Right. And that's how you want it.
That's it. That's how you need it. If you want it to last.
That's how you need it. For
that's
real.
how you need it. Yeah.
That's how you need it. Ebony, thank you so much again for being here. Thank you to everyone who's watching.
Yeah,
please share it out. You know, like, share. You know, comment. Didn't get a lot of comments live, but sometimes people comment later, so that's okay. But we definitely appreciate, you know, everyone for listening into this conversation. And the book is available at the Brown Girl Collective bookstore.
Oh, nice.
Which is actually attached to Bookshop. For those of you who shop on Bookshop, it is available there. It's prominent there. So if you want to grab a copy, if you don't have it already, that's just another option for you. So, Ebony, I'm going to let you, don't hang up on me yet, but I'm going to let you grab some water. I just want to tell everybody, I actually have an extra special guest tomorrow night. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of that. So I'll see you in just a second.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Alrighty. So yes, I was definitely pleased, happy to talk to Ebony, because I just think that this is a great book for such a time as this, or really for any time, because it's so important that we do, you know, think about and consider when it's time to think about where to go to school for higher education and being able to build community and all of those sorts of things. Our HBCUs are very, very important. So I'm glad that Ebony works with this team of 11 other writers and all the folks behind the scenes to make sure that this book got out into the world. So tomorrow, Thursday, I normally, if you're watching in real time, let me be clear, I normally don't do shows on Thursday, but unless it's something extra, extra special. And tomorrow we have a special guest who's actually with a children's book, Weird and Wonderful You, but it's by Zayla Avant-Garde. And for those who may not know who she is the young lady who was the first Black person to win the Scripps National Spelling Bee a few years ago. Since that time, this is her 5th book, actually. She's going to be here tomorrow to talk to us about this book, as well as what she's about to go off to college for here within the next few weeks. So she is going for something STEM related. So if you have young people in your life who are interested in STEM, or just want to hear from a young writer, she will be the youngest writer that we've ever had here in the BGC Book Club. Please join in for that important conversation. And of course, if you can't join live, it will be available to you to watch on a replay. And then next week on Monday, we will be back with Amber Oliver's newest book, When the Music Hits. So, you know, look for that next week, as well as another special guest, which I'll let y'all know about that on social media, because I might have to change the date, but look for that coming next week as well. And in the meantime, in between time, continue to support these Black women writers and people who are writing stories that are by, for, and about us. And I look forward to seeing you again, if not tomorrow, real soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.